Hello, hi Mayank. Glad to host you. Welcome to the TechX interview experience series. Let's get the ball rolling and you can start with a short introduction.
Sure. Hey, Akash. So this is Mayank, and I'm looking forward to join Uber next week. Uh, and precisely I have got experience of 4 years in fintech domain. I think
Mhm.
I've been working as a software engineer with various kind of companies. I've had experiences with PayPal, Dshaw, and Deliveroo. Recent stint was Deliveroo. I was operating with the payments team,
Oh, interesting.
uh, and now I'm looking forward to move to Uber precisely. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Nice, nice. So, yeah. So you would be joining Uber in a week, right?
Yes,
Got it.
precisely. I'm joining next week.
Sure. So would you like to share how was the Uber interview experience around and what like round by round, how was it and how were the questions were structured? You can tell about that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I would clearly say I applied for Uber through one of my LinkedIn connections.
Interesting.
There was this post, and I basically applied it through him,
Oh.
and I got a call the same evening from the recruiter itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the recruiter mentioned it will be a short process, in the time frame. Not it was definitely exhausting in terms of the number of interviews, but
Yeah, Uber is.
it took around 3 weeks to go through the process in a complete basis.
Hmm.
There were 6 rounds. I think starting with they had an online test, which I
Okay.
think it was a basic online test that we see from all the companies. I think it was not from an external platform. They basically use another platform that is Codility, I think, on their end. And There were 4 questions, and the time limit was around 110 minutes to be
Okay.
precise.
Hmm.
Not 110, it's 70 minutes, my bad,
Okay.
on a clear basis. And It was data structure algorithm questions. Uh, I purely themed them as ad hoc questions. Two were relatively on the easier end.
Okay.
One was more case oriented. You had to think of various cases based
Okay.
on the given template that they had given in the question, the
Hmm.
format. And one was more pure based on string manipulation things.
Oh, okay.
So using hashes and all those things. So
Got it.
it was a combination of few things. So I was able to solve 4 of them.
Oh, interesting.
But The way I see, there's a passing bar. What I've heard, it's 60%, I think, which should be
Okay.
enough for a person to
Oh,
progress to the next round in
great.
that
Nice.
case.
Great. Hmm.
Uh, yes. Followed up, I think there's a phone screen that they host. The recruiter hosted a phone screen just a week next, which was more data structure and algorithm oriented.
Okay.
So it's a 45-minute interview round,
Okay.
uh, and they expected to solve you 2 problems. Uh, I think the theme is very clear. They start with an intro and then they just proceed to the question.
Okay.
Fairly, the idea of the first question for them is to run the code. So basically, they have this Codility platform. They expect you to run the code on a few test cases and show
Okay.
the interviewer that that's running the whole for the required set of cases.
Got it.
And the other one, they probably go with a more informal approach. They don't expect you to code due to the lack of time,
Hmm.
but they expect you to think about the most optimized solution
Hmm.
and verbally able to communicate well with what you're thinking in that scenario.
Got it.
Uh, on the round-based scenario, like what type of questions I got asked, I would theme the first round as more of a ad hoc round. This
Okay.
was the first question was more of a general problem statement. It's not like we see in the lead code level type problems. It's more of like a very practical problem like we face.
So you're talking
And
about the
they
second
came up
round or
with
the
a
first round?
it's the second round after the
Okay.
coding
The
test.
second round,
That's
first was the.
probably the phone
Okay.
screen.
Got it. Got it.
Yes, and that was more oriented towards a problem statement. They came up with a story like they usually come in an interview kind of scenario, and basically came up with a few test cases. The interviewer came up there,
Hmm.
and they expect you to think around. Uh, it was a bit ad hoc in its own way because you have to really highlight what type of approach you could use that. I got stuck for a while on that question. Initially, I thought it was a binary search approach, but
Hmm.
I think with running a few cases, I was able to highlight that it's not a binary search problem. It was more of a ad hoc array-based problem. So
Got it.
precisely, I used prefix sum technique that is
Okay.
usually common in taking prefixes of the whole array.
Mm-hmm.
So that was able to do that. And the other problem was more oriented towards a grid traversal approach.
Okay.
So there's a 2D grid. They expected similar to what you have to traverse the grids in a basic scenario and find a particular equilibrium in that case. That what is the minimum number of ways to do that, something like that. The precisely like I think it was the idea of the interviewer for the second problem was more like he was more expecting me to think in the most optimized way. Like if you present an n cube solution, present a n square or something like that.
So what was
So
the
I'm not going
structure
to
like?
go into
Did
depth.
they expect you to present a brute force solution first and then optimize it, or directly go to the best solution? What was the expectation there?
Yes. So I mean, like, there's definitely lack of time in the 45 minutes time frame to solve two of the questions.
Okay.
And I think I exhausted around 25, 30 minutes in the first problem. So there was not enough time to really think about it. But even the second problem when they came up with was more, I think the whole structure of the problem was very big. So to just read through took me 5 minutes in that case. I remember that. But on a precise basis, I think it's better to present a brute force approach first. But I took some time and presented the most optimized approach myself, what I would say. So I don't think there was a certain format they were expecting. They were more interested in how you're able to think of the problem solving and are you able to like reduce any kind of unwanted kind of pieces of code. Like, are you taking more time in that scenario? So that was the main frame of the interview, I think. So this was, I think, the first phone screen that is probably what they call the elimination round. So they have a very suitable format. Like they have the coding test as the first elimination. The second is the phone screen, which is the elimination. And if you pass the elimination, then you are invited to the on-sites for Uber.
Okay.
This is a virtual on-site. It's not an office one. Like they are not doing it anymore. And in on-sites, you are expected to do 4 interviews in any case. Like however you perform in all either of the interviews, you're not going to get rejected. You have to perform the 4 interviews.
Okay. All 4 on the same day?
They had an option for all 4 on the same day, but due to my time constraints, I was not available for all the 4. Okay. So precisely like I had one in a week and I had the other 3 scheduled 2 weeks later due to some personal commitments on my end. Like
you're flexible on that?
Yes, they are flexible. Like it's not a worry about that. Like usually it's based on if they are able to get interviews at that particular time. So it's an open thing. If someone wants to go for a one-day interview thing, they're open to that. But I would personally suggest not going for that because I think the context switching is very different for Uber because each of the rounds have their own different formats. Like it's not like you're going to get asked DSA all the time. It's going to be different format for all of the rounds. So what I got from the recruiter was a DSA round, and precisely there's a specialized round that they have. This is the coding in-depth specialization. Okay. Where basically it's considered more of a low-level design round, where basically expected to get a very common generic problem from today's real-world type problems, and you're expected to bring in, you're expected to develop solutions using object-oriented languages. So precisely like more involves writing good classes and using good design patterns to frame the problem solution. And there's a HLD round precisely where basically there's a high level design round and another one was the managerial round. To be precise.
EM round, engineering manager round.
Yes, that's a engineering manager round. That's probably like dig into the hiring questions and all those things, and also went into depth of some of the old projects.
God. But how did the HLD round look like? Like, what was the structure around that?
Okay.
So what did they expect and like, how did you perform? You don't need to say the problem exactly, but yeah.
I get it. I mean, in the precise cases, talking about the HLD round, it's there's no format. I think the format is probably like there's like the saying there that there's no solution that is correct for HLD.
Okay.
You are expected to come with a solution and give your basically opinions about it. And your opinions are more dependent on what kind of you should have a strong understanding of the thing, the concepts you're applying there,
Got it.
and you're able to validate that using the concept. So precisely like it started with a basic problem set
Okay.
that where he wanted me to build some kind of a system there,
Okay.
distributed system precisely.
Okay.
And I think one thing I noticed is that they were initially more looking towards how I'm able to build up the components of the system.
Okay.
Precisely, the initial approach was to come with a solution. Then I think the interview came up with to and fro's, like basically like what if we had this and that. So it's always the format would be like it's not like in a certain way, not following a certain format. But what I see is like you're expected to get the answers from the interviewer first about
Got
what
it.
is his requirements, and where basically I got the functional and non-functional requirements.
Hmm.
Based on that, I built a component-based system,
Hmm.
which is a distributed system. Secondly, I think the idea was to connect those components.
Okay.
The basic questions could be asked like, what database are you going to use?
Okay.
And why this particular database? And you should have valid reasons to justify that. So you're able to justify those things. It becomes easier for the interviewer.
Got it.
Secondly, I think interview focused on certain optimizations precisely, where basically we could reduce some kind of service call or something like that,
Hmm.
or basically use some other component for that particular use case.
Hmm.
I think what I believe is like I did well there because I was able to justify with the right ideas there, and precisely. And
Were there any questions
on
around
the case,
scaling or something of that sort? Like how would you scale it?
yes,
Hmm.
yes, exactly. So once you justify the certain requirements,
Okay.
you get a good gist of the thing, like how much the scale would be out there. So
Hmm.
I particularly mentioned the QPS and all those things out
Okay.
there. But precisely, I don't think like they would specifically ask you to scale that. They expect you to build a distributed system from the start.
Got it.
And there is not it's not like with the limited amount of time, they are more looking towards what kind of concepts you have understood in design patterns, design kind of way. One basic thing was like they touched upon a topic where I think I mentioned the use of distributed transactions in my use case. So the interviewer went into a lot of depth. He asked me a lot of questions about distributed transactions. So all those type of transactions like Paxos and try, confirm, cancel, 2PC commit protocol, all those things. So this was all basically he went into a lot of depth.
Got it.
Luckily, I had the knowledge of those things. I had read them somewhere back there. But I mean, like what I personally see is that Uber has a more solid constraint towards they expect you to have whole knowledge rather than half knowledge about a particular thing.
Got it.
So if you are confident about a thing, then only speak about that in these kind of interviews. Else, it's not like a parameter like there that if you don't speak about them, so they would like judge you based on that. But if you have the knowledge, so better to be confident about that. And precisely like this took around 45 minutes, and I feel I did okay. I think that was the case. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And how did the EM round? That was the last round, right?
Yes. So there's no pattern like they scheduled in a very ad hoc way.
Okay.
They had my DSA round first, the on-site DSA. Then they had the LLD, and in a small gap I had the HLD then, and the last one I had the EM round, which was basically uh, a very different round from what I've seen from other companies like Google and all those things.
Okay.
So the emphasis was more of like what project you've built in the recent times.
Oh.
And they went quite into depth of these projects, like whole time frame. They asked me what is the time frame of the project, how did you started with that, how did you identify the problem, was the problem known to the team or someone else had some context on that. And then they went to things like did you build it end to end, what was the number of engineers working on that project,
Okay.
asked me involvement about other players in the whole system, like so precisely like so they'll go into depth of the whole type of the project, and once they do that, they also focus on the details of the whole project in the implementation. Like
Oh.
if you implemented a certain thing, how did you implemented it?
Mm-hmm.
This was not the only gist of the thing. One thing that they liked about the this interview was that they didn't have any particular mindset about what I've done. They were more interested in what knowledge I have of the current system I'm working in. Have I developed a certain knowledge about my system? Like for a certain scale, if I was working in the current payments team, for example, they were asking me the whole infrastructure, how do you support payments, what's the whole workflow, and uh, if you tested this whole thing, like what knowledge you applied to test this whole workflow for the project that you built it. So certainly, I would say like one needs to be very thorough with his work or a project that is worked on in this particular thing. So I think interviews were quite good. Like there were two interviews, and I think I felt quite comfortable. They were quite experienced, and they asked valid questions. And then certainly in the end, they were interested towards the code practices. I think I'd say.
Okay. In the
Like
EM
how
round?
do you operate in the EM round exactly? Like how do you review PRs? What's your perception towards
Right.
reviewing PRs?
Okay.
That kind of thing, and what type of release cycle you follow and all those things.
Anything around culture fit, or like how did you handle failure or something of that sort, like the standard things which other companies ask?
There were certain questions I would say, like one of the questions I really remind that they asked me about in certain terms of culture, like how do you look for feedback from your managers and all those things.
Got it.
These
Makes
type of questions were imminent, and I think they were more interested towards how would one approach some kind of a blocker in this scenario, and even if there's some kind of disagreement with certain people, how do you handle that? So this is, I think, the some type of questions were definitely there.
got it.
I don't exactly remember all of them, but one of them was this.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Got it. Got it. And after the interview, they took around a week, or like how much time they took to announce the results and roll out the offer?
Uh, Precisely, like I think it took around 3 days to, I think, confirm
Oh,
that.
oh, okay. Fast.
I think the recruiter called me out on 3 days later, and he just informed me that I've got the offer.
Oh,
It was a
nice.
quite fast process, and I think I had the team assigned directly, which definitely I'd heard before that Uber has there are concerns in having a team assigned due to lack of headcount. But I think I got the team directly from my interview process.
Got it.
My recruiter confirmed that. He had a call scheduled that day once I confirmed he confirmed that I had the offer. And it took a few more days to get the numbers to confirm on the numbers and getting the offer rolled out. So that
Oh,
was the whole thing out here.
God. Interesting, man. Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, you feel you excelled in mostly all the rounds? Like according to your
Uh,
or like any feedback you got after the interview?
okay, like I feel like I think I did well. Like
Okay.
DSA, I was quite confident because
Mhm.
in the DSA rounds, when I had the DSA round, so I solved both of the problems in
Hmm.
the short amount of time that they asked me. So I was confident about that.
Hmm.
LLD, luckily, I would say I got a good problem that I had done before.
Hmm.
So it was like something that maybe my luck worked out there. And HLD was more precisely, I think, the interviewer looked confident in the communication that we had. So he was like asking good questions, and I was able to answer them. So precisely, like I didn't feel like I missed out on anything.
So like in the HLD
EMs
round,
are always key.
you were able to answer because of the work which you didn't like, or the preparation which you did. Like, what do you think was the reason you were able to answer HLD and LLD rounds?
I would certainly say for HLD, like it was a combination of both.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, first of all, the first thing is like the work that I do is more based on distributed systems. So I had a good knowledge about what kind of structures are followed in buildings or distributed systems,
Hmm.
uh, how you build services and how you design them,
Hmm.
uh, how do you define database schemas and all those things.
Hmm.
Then there was some added knowledge which I had gained through some of my interest towards reading things,
Okay.
or we can say preparation as well. I read a few books precisely about distributed system. I often read things related to and blogs related to these kind of systems.
Any book you
So
recommend
I
for this?
had a I would certainly say there's a combination of books you could to build up knowledge for HLD. One
Hmm.
of them could be there's a book named as Designing Data Intensive Applications, which is quite a great book in understanding the concepts.
Okay.
And then I think one of the books which I keep on highlighting to people that it's quite famous as well, and keep on highlighting them that this is the book to prepare for HLD. That's the Alex Zoo, both of these volumes. I think
Okay.
design Facing the system design interview. That's a book from Alex Zoo. He has 2 volumes.
Hmm.
So if one can go through those chapters in the book and understand the concepts behind that, I
Oh,
think it's definitely worth like going through. And I think you can cover most of the system design topics there.
got it. What
But
was the first book
again,
which you referred? Sorry, I missed that. Data design and applications. What was the name of the first book which you referred?
it's a designing data intensive applications.
Okay.
It's a book which is, I think,
Author?
I don't remember the author. I think is it precisely to say. Let me check the author name. It must be. It's uh, it's Clapman. Someone named
Platform.
Clapman, I think.
Got it. Got it.
So yes, I would say like this is a very good book. In it's Martin Clapman who has written this book. I think this is
Okay.
a really good book. I think
Mhm.
if you want to build concepts about basic themes like scalability, reliability, and all those things, so
Got
they
it.
go into good depth and definitely.
So which team in Uber you are joining? Like, what would be the like if you are comfortable sharing that? Like, yeah.
I got an offer from the micro mobility team. That's
Okay.
probably something in the rider org. Uh, I think it's more oriented towards bicycle services, like they're operating there. Like you get a bicycle from certain location and you are able to
Oh,
use it
okay.
and drop it at some other location.
Got it.
So I think Uber is imminent with these kind of services in Latin America and probably I think Europe.
Oh,
So
okay. Hmm.
the project looked exciting, and I think
Yeah.
that's what I think
That's interesting.
looked worth joining. Also, another thing that was interesting is that my tech stack that I've currently operated on for the last 2 3 years is
Hmm.
similar to what they're working on. So
Oh,
it should not be a big worry to like migrate to that particular team. Yeah.
but what is your primary tech stack that you worked in Deliveroo?
It was Golang. There's a
Got it.
bit of monolith architecture written on Ruby,
Uh-huh.
and we were operating on AWS as a cloud
Got it.
service.
Awesome, man. It was great hosting you, and I think this session was very insightful for anyone who would watch this.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for uh, joining this. And yeah, I think it would help the community well.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.